What's up, guys? It's Jeremy Jeffers back with another episode of What's the Alternative? Got a special guest in the building, athlete, business manager, my guy, David Mookie Mariotti. What's up, man?
Jeremy, how you doing? I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem, man. So, give us a little background, man, on where you from and how you got the. I want to know personally where Mookie came from. So,
A lot
talk
of
to us a
people,
little bit about that.
a lot of people do want to know that. I'm happy you asked that. I'm originally from. We'll start, where I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, specifically Brook Park, which is a smaller suburb, like right adjacent to the Cleveland border, near the
Okay.
airport here. I'm actually here right now. Like I was telling you before we jumped into it, I left sunny Miami yesterday for gloomy Cleveland. It's an important weekend. Wanted to come see, some special mothers in my life. My
Right.
mom, my son's mom, but here I am. But yeah, it's about Mookie.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit. I know when we first met. For those who don't know, I met Mookie in Charlotte. Um, it was Kobe's first game and first NBA game in Charlotte, and we met at a small bar above the Airbnb was above the bar that I was staying at, and it was just crazy because I had all my sports cube gear on. You was like, "What sports cube?" I guess it grabbed your attention.
Yeah, it did. I think I started the conversation. It
Yeah,
was a
for
good,
sure.
good kind of presentation of what you were doing, and you looked like you had something really good going. And then,
Yeah,
here we are. Got to know you over the past, let's say, 6 months, and
yeah,
I'm impressed with the things you got going, including this podcast. I've
yeah.
been tuned in the past 4 or 5 episodes. So
Appreciate it, man. Well, tell us how the nickname Mookie came about.
yeah, let's get to it. So I was born. I'm 33 years old. I was born in October, right during like the 1986 World Series. So one of the most infamous errors, if not the most infamous errors in sports history, was the 1986 World Series, Game 6. It was the Boston Red Sox versus the New York Mets, and there was a player by the name of Mookie Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
It was Game 6. He was up to bat. He hits a dribble down the first base line, and these are for the people who don't remember this play, because a lot of people do, whether they
Right.
saw it or saw it rerun, because it's rerun every year during the World Series. But anyways, the ball goes. Mookie hits the ball right down the first baseline. Bill Buckner, who was the Red Sox first baseman at the time, RIP to Bill Buckner. He just recently passed last spring or last summer. But he reaches down to get the ball, and it goes right between his legs. So they drive in the winning. Mookie drives in the winning run, which seals Game 6. The Mets win. They go on to win Game 7. I was born after Game 6 into the morning of the next morning.
Right.
I was born. My dad's name's David. He comes to the hospital. And he likes his name, but he didn't. My mom wanted to name me David, so he came up with something different. So since birth, and here we are, 33 years later, everybody calls me Mookie.
That's crazy. I never would have thought. Never would have thought.
Yeah, so we kind of, I'm sure we'll dive into some sports. So I mean,
Yeah, man.
my livelihood.
Talk to me about your journey growing up, as far as your childhood on into. Did you play any sports in high school? And then obviously college. Talk about all of that.
Yeah, so I mean, sports was my first love. Like we're all watching The Last Dance right now. Somehow at 2.5 years old, at the time to this day, I still remember being at the Richfield Coliseum where Michael Jordan hit the shot over Craig Elo. So I mean, that's kind of where it started. My mom, of all people, used to take me to all the Cavs games back then.
Right.
And obviously, I love the Browns and the Indians. So just from a young age, observing sports and just kind of having an opinion on sports, a take on sports, and just a love for sports. But yeah, I went on to play. If I stood up, you probably see I'm not that tall. So in the basketball world, I didn't really get that far. I went to a really competitive high school, and that goes for the other sports I played growing up: football, baseball, and basketball. But I was pretty good for a while there. And then the cliche is, you kind of, but it's true. You're not going to become a professional athlete, or in my case, E1 college athlete. So you kind of find a way to be around sports. And luckily for me, and with a lot of hard work, I got some stability in this business that is sports.
Right. Talk about the LeBron era. Were you in Cleveland around all of that was growing up? When he was blowing up in high school, how was the reaction being in the Cleveland area?
It was crazy. So I grew up in Cleveland. LeBron is 2 years older than me, so I was a high school, entering high school when he was a sophomore, I believe, or a junior. So I mean, that's when he really, he had a lot of notoriety from day
Right.
one. But we went to a lot of high school games. My brother Vinny and I watched them in high school. The high school I went to was featured in a doubleheader that featured LeBron. After that, we didn't play LeBron, but
Oh wow.
played after that game. So it started very early, just kind of seeing how great he was, and the reaction to Cleveland. I'll tell you, when it was announced during the NBA draft lottery in 2003
Hmm.
that we'd get the first, and I say we back then as a Cavs fan,
Right.
uh, that the Cavs got the number one overall pick. I mean, it was probably the biggest celebration I had seen for Cleveland sports at that time.
Right.
People driving down the street honking like, I think a lot of people thought they were guaranteed to go to the finals the next year.
Right.
Like that's the impact he had and the promise, and good for him. He's really lived up to the expectations. I mean, those were lofty expectations. So those eras were crazy, and especially him coming back to Cleveland and winning like he did in 2016. Just exciting times being from here.
Right. Right. So talk to me about obviously you say you didn't go play in college. Did you go to college, or you started your path right to the space that you're in now?
Yeah, so I went to college. I went to DePaul University in Chicago.
Okay.
I always say I got kind of a dual education there. Not only just going to a really good school, but being in the city. I mean, it's in the heart of downtown Chicago. So, when I was making my college decision, it wasn't like yours, which school am I going to go to play basketball?
Right.
But it was also what environment do I want to put myself in? So it kind of came between Chicago and New York.
Okay.
Schools in both places, and ended up at DePaul. So as soon as I got there, kind of hit the ground running, and started finding things I could get involved with and things I was interested in.
So talk to me about like when you found like your like the first time you was like you felt like you hit that big break.
It seems like yesterday because it wasn't that long ago. So my path, like following DePaul University, I actually transitioned with my English degree and kind of was in the right place at the right time. I became a sports writer for a big newspaper in Chicago, when newspapers were still,
Right.
in a good space. In a good space. I don't know how else to put it.
Right.
So I started writing for a newspaper out there, and then I always wanted to be in this world that I'm in now. Like I said from the beginning, so I transitioned into, in my mid-20s, doing internships, unpaid internships, doing jobs on the side to make ends meet.
Right.
Learning from other agents, working for agents. Just grinding it out, being at All-Star Weekend every year, being at the NBA Finals, if I could get myself there, being at the Combine, or being at, these events where people were in a room that I could meet and learn from.
Right.
So my break came basically 4.5 years ago. Greg Levy and Aaron Turner at Barris Management Team, they had started an agency not too long before this, and I returned from Chicago to Cleveland. So I kind of watched from afar what they were doing, and by God's grace, got connected to them. Was able to kind of show them what I could do, hit the ground running with them. Was hired by them, and at the time there were two clients in the agency. One included Terry Rozier, who was a rookie for the Boston Celtics, and Aaron and Greg trusted me to kind of start handling his day to day, or
Right.
meeting his needs, whatever he needed.
Right.
So that was my big break, as far as like finally gaining some stability after grinding this thing out to
Right.
20 years old, and
Yeah.
having a 1-year-old at the time and knowing it was make or break
Right.
to
Right.
stay in this world or get in this world.
That's crazy. That's crazy to think about. Talk about some of the guys that you do represent that are in the NBA, other than Terry Rozier, and talk about the lifestyle and how your lifestyle. I'm sure your lifestyle has changed from the newspaper writer to now
Yeah,
traveling and taking the phone calls, and
yeah,
just talk about that for a little bit.
yeah. It sure has changed. So right now I have two guys that I work for: Terry Rozier, as I mentioned, and Derek Jones Jr. from the Miami Heat. And they were two real natural fits. I kind of told you the background of how I got, started with this, and, grew a natural, organic relationship with Terry and his family. Derek, at the same time, was entering his rookie year. He spent 1 year at UNLV. We do our pre-drafts at Veris in Miami.
Right.
So doing our pre-draft in Miami, Derek was an incoming, uh, spent 1 year in college, was incoming draft hopeful.
Right.
So him and I became roommates in Miami in a condo. He's training, I'm working, and so another pretty natural fit as we got to know each other and he began to trust me. And he was young; he was 19 years old. So,
Right.
I mean, his potential was through the roof. Just to see him in that gym the first day. Uh, so fast forward to now, it's been 4 years, 4.5 years. But if you rewind back then, like there's a lot that went into it in the process of, you know, Derek and I, Terry and I, and 4.5 years of, earning their trust, doing whatever they needed me to do. There's a lot that goes into it. My day to day has changed significantly from the
Right.
newspaper wedding days to now. I sleep with my phone, on my neck. I'm ready to answer a call at any time. And they're always good calls because it's my guys on the other line. But
Right.
just being ready for whatever, being reactive. So
Tell me, man, when that moment was where you're like, you've been grinding with the newspaper and you just like, I'm here now, and it was just all your hard work had paid off. What was that? What was that moment for you?
that moment, I'd have to say it wasn't that long ago. So 2 years ago, around this time, uh, Scary Terry was born. Terry
Beautiful,
Rozier.
beautiful force, man.
Yeah, Terry Rozier uh, started in the NBA playoffs and was a huge factor in leading that team to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Right.
And long before that, he had shots where he was able to, fill in for Kyrie or prove that he was the starter in this league with that Boston team. Um, and that started with his first career started a triple double, and then
Right.
kind of the games that follow that. So basically, we were paying attention, or I was paying attention to Twitter, social media, everything that we pay attention to these days, and the fans in Boston and elsewhere were calling him Scary Terry.
Hmm.
So I said, this is something that is probably going to stick.
Right.
And it kind of was a perfect storm of him having exceptional play, getting his shot, and that going all the way through the Eastern Conference playoffs to the point where, we did a lot of branding around that, whether it was T-shirts that sold well or,
Right.
just him becoming Scary Terry. And he did all that with his play on the court.
Right.
But at the same time, kind of the marketing around that, and there was a lot of coverage of that. Like Scott Van Pelt had him on, Sports Center after a victory. I think he was wearing the Drew Bledsoe jersey. I don't know if you remember that. But Scott Van Pelt said, Scary Terry, this is a thing now. So,
Right.
just helping with the marketing surrounding that and kind of leading that charge and, knowing that we have a King James, we have a Durantula, we have a Brow, we have a Beard, you know, guys in the league have nicknames that maybe you just call them by that. But
Right.
no matter what, he's Scary Terry now.
Right.
So kind of being a part of that was very exciting. And, it was a big accomplishment.
So everything kind of took off by storm after that, as far as just the business side of things. Let's say off the court, so to speak, uh,
Yeah.
for you and Terry.
Yeah, like I said, that's his name, and that went a long way for branding. And Terry's so good at what he does, not only on the court but off the court. With him and his mom, Gina Tucker, and their charitable foundation, 12 Blessings, which I'm fortunate to be a part of too. But from a media standpoint, or Terry will give you real content in any interview, so that goes a long way too. Terry's Terry, so he kind of has these gems or these quips or kind of sayings or style, and we're able to build off that as well.
Right.
You got to kind
Talk
of
about talk about the balance. You say you have a son. Talk about the balance of, it's pretty much you're an entrepreneur in your own way.
yeah.
Talk about the balance of all of that travel
Stuff.
and the family time as well, to
Yeah.
spend time with your kid, and how important that balance is.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult. I justify my time away by, knowing that this is all for him.
Right.
4.5 years old, he understands what his dad, does and how hard I go and how hard I work. But, the balance comes in that quality time I do spend with him. And, even though I live in Miami right now for work, I'm able to travel back to Cleveland or get
Right.
him down to Miami. And, you kind of value that time a little bit more,
Right.
in other circumstances. But it's definitely not easy. I FaceTime him every day.
Right.
His mom's great. She's able to, we're able to communicate all day long. And
Right.
anytime he has a question for me or just wants to see me and vice versa, like we're on the phone. So
That's good.
he knows it's all for him.
That's good. That's good. So talk a little bit about, man, where you're headed in the future. Obviously more athletes, you have some new stuff coming up. Um, talk about your future in this, and now that you're in it, where do you want to take this thing off to?
Yeah, I want to keep growing. I'm very focused on the guys I have now, but I always want to provide that individual focus. So if the time came where, I did take on another client, uh, I'd have to give that same individual focus and realize and know that I'm not taking any focus away from the other guys, but I'm good at balancing a lot of things. When I worked full time with Eris, we grew to a lot of clients. So
Right,
I'm handling a lot of responsibilities. And now that I transitioned to just being the manager for two guys, I'm still just as busy, but I'm
right,
able to learn how to manage my time a little bit differently. Uh, so yeah, I guess to answer your question, in the future, I wouldn't say I'm on the recruiting trail, but if we find the right fit, for me to handle somebody's business and life needs and,
right,
really just try to make their life easier and clear their head and know that they play at the highest level of professional sports. And that's made easier when you have somebody that could really, work for you and help you. So yeah, I'm
right.
always open to that. Recently just kind of launched my company, Flex Sports and Entertainment, which is
Oh
a,
wow.
a, a marketing management, kind of do all firm.
Okay.
Um, so we'll keep building that. Once we get some infrastructure, maybe it will be time to expand a little bit.
That sounds good, man. That's super exciting. And it's not easy. That's what I think a lot of people don't understand. And I talk to a lot of my kids, about there's always ways to be around what you want to be around, and do something in a professional manner, such as yourself, because everybody's not going to get to the NBA or play high level Division One college. So what advice do you have for certain kids? Obviously, that pill is so hard to swallow in high school or in college or when you're done. But to get a head start and be thinking about the other side of things, life, um, and getting in that realm. How hard was it for you, first of all, to swallow that pill to not play sports anymore? And what advice do you have for the kids, that may be on that fence about pursuing a career, but around whatever they love?
Yeah, fortunately or unfortunately for me, I realized at a young age I wasn't going to get very far competing on the court or on the field, but my love for the games never changed. But I mean, you coach a lot of kids and
Right,
really transparent with them, and there comes that point where they're going to realize they're either going to go that far or keep working to go that far, or maybe not. And that's an advantage. Like the kids you coach, that's an advantage that you played competitively,
right,
at a high level, whatever level that may be. So always stick to that and the camaraderie you learn playing with teammates and the team sport. If you're more like me and you realize kind of early that you weren't gonna compete at a high level, find a focus. If it's sports, do everything you can to know
right,
everything you can about the sport you're interested about or about the sports you're interested in. If it's multiple sports, but
right,
there's so much to know, and there's really not a easy path into it. Like I said, so hit the ground running. Do as many internships as you can when you're in school or in college or wherever it may be, and if you got to supplement those unpaid internships with other jobs to keep yourself afloat, do that. um, you know, Connect with people, be genuine, and importantly, just be true to yourself, because that's the biggest thing.
right, right. I think one of the biggest things you just said was connect with people.
Yeah,
Um, I think it's, this generation of kids, when I try to help them so much, but they're just so used to posting and everything is so fast on social media for them that they don't know how to talk to people. You know what
right.
I mean? They just lose the human interaction. So talk about the kids, how important it is to make connections, because half the battle is connections. In the business, some of the business that you're in, making great
Yeah.
relationships. So talk about that a little bit.
It's really everything. And I think what you're saying is too is to make that connection, you got to make a good presentation. You got to,
Exactly.
show that you're respectful, and especially if you're a kid, coming up to somebody who's maybe established to a point where you want to be. I mean, respect goes a long way. Being yourself goes a long way. Uh, Looking the part goes the way. As
Right.
far as, being presentable and being respectful, all the things I already said. But connections are everything. Like the business I'm in is a relationship business, and it's for me personally, making the connections or relationships that I didn't think had a solid foundation. Maybe it was just like every time I saw them, it was, hey, how you doing?
Right.
Kind of in these circles that I was in 10, 15 years ago as a
Right.
teenager. Now they're kind of coming into play. So back then, these were, people I respected so much, but I might only get a hello, how you doing from. And now I'm at a point where I'm kind of crossing paths with these people.
Right.
So you never know, what type of impression. It's got to be a good one, and where that's going to take you down the road.
Right. So last thing, man, I'm gonna give you a couple more pointers, and then I'll let you go, man, so you can spend some time with your moms.
For sure. Right now, by the way, I'm in my bedroom that my son has here. If you want to see the background, so it's kind of not my typical backdrop for something like this, but we're making do. I'm glad we got.
Normally we get the palm trees and the water in the background.
Yeah, we would have had that set up for you if it worked out that way. But this is better. This is more important. So
yeah,
palm trees are cool though.
Talk to me about your diet, man. I don't know, obviously being around. I'm really big on nutrition.
Yeah.
But being around those type of guys, Twigs. But being around those type of guys as far as nutrition, let me get this dog out of here. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Come on. But talking about nutrition, man, like do you eat really healthy now that being around high level athletes that take care of their bodies, or is it something that you as a manager you just whatever?
I mean, I try to. I'm on the road a lot, and that's difficult. Whether you're flying or driving, you don't have the best nutrition, options on the road. So to answer your question, I try to. When I'm home and I got a little bit of downtime, I try to eat as healthy as possible. I need to do a better job at that myself. And then just staying fit. I recently, with kind of this downtime or uncertain time or quarantine where, my days are still busy, but I've found some breaks in the action. I've gotten back to working out more and running and, just being fit. So it's definitely inspiring being around guys that compete at the highest level and take care of their body, to the utmost extent.
Right.
So I'm fortunate enough to be around that and see, I gotta look a certain way too. But to answer your question, as much as possible. It's tough. I think I'm gonna get better with that over time.
Yeah. Man, so let's finish up, man. Give the kids some pointers of advice on what they need to be looking for, what they need to be doing as they're coming up through the high school and college years to be successful. If you had three pointers, what 3 pointers would you give the kids?
I would say education, and not just specifically grades, but know what's going on around you, learn the game. That's probably first and foremost. Character is always going to come, hand in hand with that. Be professional, even though you're competing, maybe at the AAU level, high school level, be professional. Like we kind of talked about earlier, be respectful. And, you have coaches, you have parents watching you, you have scouts watching you. And, you mentioned social media earlier. That's important. I mean, to act respectfully on that and present yourself in a certain way.
Right. So I need before we leave, I need one story. I need the craziest story that you can tell me with either Terry Rozier or Derrick Jones Jr.
I mean, we've had some. I'll try to narrow it down. I mean, not just in the crazy sense. It's been an incredible year, just of recent accomplishments for Terry and Derrick. I mean, just last summer, Terry signed a big contract in Charlotte, became a starter in Charlotte. There was a little celebration around that when that happened, which is a crazy story in itself, or just a good time in a time where everybody really embraced each other. So I know that was a big milestone for him, and he had a really good season, up until the point that it ended. And we're all, we all were really proud of the way he competed this year and was able to lead the Hornets as a starting point guard. Derrick, I mean, 3 months ago, won the NBA Slam Dunk Contest.
That was pretty crazy.
He dreamed of since he was a kid. He started dunking, I think it was in 7th grade, 8th grade. I mean, it was way before that. I'll try to figure out what the age was, but I know ever since he did and realized the hops he had, that he that was a dream of his. So on the accomplishment front, like we've had some recent really big wins, and Derek's such a great player. His potential is through the roof. I think he's headed to a place where he's going to be a really, really big factor in the landscape of the league as a not only offensive threat but a defender. Crazy story, man. I'm trying to think. I got so many.
It's gotta be crazy up there in that world.
Let me Oh, China. All right, here's a crazy story. So Terry's been endorsed Puma for almost 2 years now. So last summer Puma invited a couple of their basketball athletes, including Terry and then Danny Green, to go to China. So Terry could bring a couple people, and talking amongst each other at the agency, it made sense for his trainer Ant Wells, who
Right.
to go to keep him fit and in shape while he was out there. And then also myself, I was chosen, to go out there, and if there's any business needs or just making sure everything went smoothly. So, leading up to the trip, we were all excited that we were going to go on this trip. We found out like maybe 2 weeks before we were taking the Puma jet out there.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if you've seen that thing, but to fly kind of in that thing and go from city to city and see the way basketball was embraced over there.
Right.
It was just a crazy experience. I've never really left the country besides, Canada.
Right.
So, I'm sure basketball will take me other places too, but that was just a crazy experience in itself.
Okay, man. Well, I appreciate you, man. I ain't gonna hold you too much longer. I appreciate you. I know your schedule is hectic, hopping on the episode with me, man, and we'll definitely stay in touch, man. I'm pretty sure we'll be talking and doing some things in the future together as well.
For sure, man. I appreciate your time. I really like what you got going right now.